Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Good Deeds Note Investing Podcast. I am your co-host, Jamie Bateman, flying solo as a host today. Chris is a little under the weather this week. We hope that he feels better. He actually had to postpone a webinar last night, which, I didn't realize machines could get sick. So now we hope and pray that he's feeling better in the coming days. But I am joined today by a newer note investor, Mike Schultz. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Good. Yeah, can't complain. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve, so it's kind of been a slow week in general between Christmas and New Year's here. So it's been a little dark and kind of rainy this week. What's the weather like where you are?
It actually snowed this morning, so driving was a little bit fun.
Yeah, well, you're fine with that, right?
Oh yeah.
Makes it a little more challenging. Now, where are you, Mike?
I am located basically directly between Milwaukee and Chicago, and on the Illinois side. So.
Okay. Nice. And that's where you grew up?
It is where I grew up. Yep.
Okay.
I'm 32, married for 6 years now. I have 3 kids, 3 and under, and just got started in notes in, I think it was April. So, or on my own at least in April.
Yeah. No. So I think this will be a really good show for everybody, but especially newer note investors or people who are kind of kicking the tires a little bit, have heard about mortgage note investing, or just know somebody who does it, or maybe they've bought under 10 notes. I think there'd be some real value here. I've been working with Mike, just for our audience. I've been working with Mike for, I guess, the better part of this past year. Is that right?
Yeah, it's been I think about April or even March is when we first kind of touched base. First couple phone calls.
Got it. So trying to help him out, but at the end of the day, it's Mike, it's your show to run. So I'm here to support and do what I can to help you make progress along the way. But for those unfamiliar with you, I'm sure you're being the famous guy that you are. There's always 1 or 2 people who haven't heard of Mike Schultz, but now can you let's dive into your background a little bit. I mean, we already did a little bit, but let's get a little more specific with kind of what you do for a living and how you stumbled across mortgage note investing and real estate investing and that kind of thing. So why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, so I grew up actually racing snowmobiles, snowcross. Pretty similar to
nice
motocross, like dirt bikes. Did that till about 2010. Had a pretty bad injury, punctured a lung. Decided to hang that up and
yikes.
Get serious.
I knew that.
Yeah, and it actually worked out kind of good. It was 2010, 2011. So market was low. Sold all my racing stuff. Ended up buying my first property, little ranch, 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in November of 2011. Picked it up for a whopping like $73,000. Ended up living there for about 5 years, and during that time, I became really good friends with the realtor that I worked with. He tried to get me more involved in investing at the time, but being young and dumb, I just wanted to spend money and buy nice stuff and be a 20-year-old. Yeah. So ended up doing like a live and flip in that house, and me and my newly married wife decided to put it on the market, and like, we'll see if it sells. We'll end up selling it in 3 days for over asking price.
Wow. When was this?
That was the spring of 2015 or 2016, I believe, right in there. So I ended up having to move into my mom's basement Newly married wife within 30 days because they wanted a quick close,
Nice.
which was fun, So we ended up just my realtor's term is rat holing a bunch of money until we found our quote unquote forever home. Ended up purchasing another foreclosure, gotten that one, completely remodeling it, moved in, had our first son while we were there. I guess we got bored and said, let's see if we can list it again. So sold that one in, I think it was like 7 days.
Wow.
Real close to asking price.
So it was a much slower.
Yeah.
Super slow market at that point.
Yeah. And I wasn't making like big money on these living flips. I mean, I unfortunately, I guess, like to do things the right way, which costs a little extra money, especially when it comes to mechanicals, being my background. But was able to put a little bit of money in the bank, and so we're in that house, had our first son, got sold that house, decided it was time to have another kid while living in a rental.
Okay,
in between houses.
Quick question. So when you did these 2 live-in flips, was that was the intention with each one going in, or did it kind of just turn that way?
The first one, I mean, I think I closed on it on my 21st birthday. So, I mean, I really didn't know much about anything. Like, you saw a couple, remodeling shows, and you heard people flipping houses, and like I said, my realtor was really big into that.
I don't think I was thinking past my 22nd birthday when I was 21. So I get it. But and for those, I've never done a live-in flip, but I know if you reside in the property for 2 of the previous 5 years, you can you don't pay capital gains on any of that money, any of that profit up until 350 or something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a high amount, which, sounds like you didn't quite hit that threshold.
Oh, no.
But because you and your spouse lived in that property for at least 2 of the previous 5 years, you were able to keep all of that profit tax free. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. Yep.
Nice. So, but I imagine it's not an easy thing to do a live-in flip.
No, it wasn't. I did have one of my best friends living with us for a while, and made him work from sun up to sundown.
There you
didn't
go.
have a job at the time, and it tested our friendship a little bit. And but we ended up getting the whole house done over probably 3 years. I really focused on it. Did it kind of slow.
Well, remind me never to come visit you. You'll put me to work.
No, we put everybody to work.
Now you've got kids for that. No, just kidding.
Can't keep the tools out of their hands. They're crazy.
Yeah. So you okay, so the second one went well also. And then you and then what, you were living in a rental, you said?
Yeah. My wife's friend had a rental pretty close, so we moved in there. My wife was pregnant with our second son, and took that summer kind of looking at, I think we looked at over 200 houses or properties, went back and forth of, should we build again, or should we look at building again, or just buy another foreclosure, or just buy outright from somebody. It was coming down to the wire. Found a foreclosure in my wife's hometown, and it was a VA foreclosure. And the first time we went to closing, they spelled, I think my wife's, our last name wrong under her name. They messed up like one letter, and the VA like completely shut everything down, and we got pushed another month. Well, my son was due in the beginning of November, and this was already, I think, end of July when the first closing got pushed, and we had to do a full remodel on this house before moving in. So we ended up closing at the end of August, and really kicked it in high gear and remodeled a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, 2,000 square foot house in about 2.5 months.
Wow.
With a lot of help from some friends in the trade and a lot of sleepless nights, but got it done. Moved in, I think it was about 2.5 weeks before my son was born. And yeah, I've been living there ever since. It's been, I think, about 2.5 years now. So yeah,
so you've done three full rehabs.
Yeah. The first one is the only one I technically lived in while remodeling. The other two, we were living at my mom's house for that one, and then the last one we had a rental that we were staying in. So
okay, yeah. So it sounds like the financing was the challenge that pushed everything back, that created more challenges. I know people talk about, rehabs and the Burr method and all that, and which is great. It can be a really very powerful tool or strategy, I guess. But I think making sure the financing is lined up can be the part we kind of just gloss right over, like, oh yeah, well, I'll just get a loan and pay off my hard money lender or whatever. It's like, well, what if you don't, or what if and nowadays lending guidelines have gotten even tighter. So it's just, that can be, that can be a challenge for sure. I mean, I know we just did a new build in Florida, and there, it just, the closing itself kept getting pushed back for specific reasons not related to the financing. And then when it came down to it, oh wait, we got to redo the appraisal now for the lender. It's like, it's a lot of moving parts with a rehab or a flip or new build. And the financing is a big piece of it. So you're still residing there at that third house, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Got it.
So throughout this whole process, obviously, with selling stuff and making a little bit of money, became more and more interested in real estate and talking with our realtor, and he pointed me on the path of rental properties. And at the time I was taking a lot of on-call for work. I'm a commercial industrial heating and air technician, so it can be up and down, but I was taking a lot on call at the time, especially trying to get some more funds to remodel these houses. And my wife was like, absolutely not. You don't need a rental. You don't need a tenant. Calling in the middle of the night, you're already working enough, and kind of really shot that down. So, but I eventually convinced her to sit down with our realtor when we were at our second house. And I'll never forget the conversation. We invited him over, to see the remodel, kind of what we did. He's really into that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, I think we're interested in being real estate investors and landlords. And he's like, all right, cool. Hand me 30 grand. I was like, well, I don't have like, who has 30 grand cash sitting around?
Right.
And I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. So he starts looking around my house, and he's like, oh, well, you got a nice TV on the wall. Your wife drives a nice Jeep in the driveway. You got a decent pickup truck. Like, what are you doing with all your money? And kind of was like,
this was your realtor?
Yeah. And if you met him, he's a great guy, but he's brutally honest, tells you exactly how it is. There's no BS. And that's what I really like about him. And we still keep in touch to this day, but and I was like, oh man, like, he's right. Like, we make decent money, but I don't have, a whole lot of savings. So
nothing to show for it.
And he's like, well, how are you going to go buy a rental property if you don't have, 20, 30% to put down? I don't know. I only put 10% down in these houses. So, that's when I really got laser focused on budgeting, found Bigger Pockets, started listening to their podcasts, and really hammered down on mine and my wife's budget. Was really tense for the first 3 to 6 months, to say the least, with managing money, especially newly married and stuff like that. But honestly, I think we're still fairly close to our same budget numbers we were 5-6 years ago. So as
far as what you're spending, kind of
what we're spending, and then excess putting into saving for investing or other things. So it's something I definitely tell a lot of people to start there.
No, it's a really good point, and it came up with the Mark Owens podcast episode that just came out yesterday. He's talking people. It's so sexy to talk about real estate investing, and I'm an entrepreneur, note investing, and it's like, well, you have your personal financial situation right in front of you that you can probably should be addressing first. Let's not put the cart before the horse. I think that's right. But yeah, absolutely. So and the whole, most people, and the reality is most people, when your income goes up, your expenses go up just as much, if not more. It sounds like you and your wife decided at that point to take ownership of your personal financial situation and, really take it seriously. Now, how old were you at this point, approximately?
About 26.
Okay.
27.
Yeah. Just curious, because again, it's easy to talk about all this stuff, but when you're 18 years old, you don't want to hear about budgeting and
yeah. And I grew up in a family where we really didn't talk a whole lot about money at all, or do with money. It was kind of the the quote unquote poor dad mentality, go to work, pay taxes, and borrow money if you can't afford it outright type of thing. And
yeah. So when you were already looking for a rental, was the goal more cash flow or long-term wealth building, or you just knew you wanted a rental?
It was more, I think, long-term, wealth building more. Once I got focused on the budget, I really was hammering down more about retirement than making more cash flow during my, working years, so to say.
Yeah, got it.
And then I would say over the past 2 years or so, it's kind of, more focused on trying to build up some cash flow and do the retirement thing at the same time,
Yeah.
But
so was it the Bigger Pockets podcast and their forums and website, or mostly the podcast that
mostly the podcast? Yeah, I drive a lot for work, sometimes 3 hours a day. So was constantly listening to all their episodes, anything I could find on finance and how to budget better and stuff like that. And then we ended up with a large sum of, for us anyway, a large sum of cash. And it's like, okay, cool. I've been doing this budgeting. Now what do I do?
When you say, how did you end up with this large sum of cash?
By setting the budgets and actually just pushing money into accounts and not touching it. Just going,
see, that's funny, because it's like the answer's right there in front of you, but that sounds boring, and but you just followed the process that you laid out for you, and that you both had agreed upon, that you would, you followed your budget, and then eventually it grows and grows, and there you have a large sum of cash. So it almost sounded like you got this large sum of cash one day that just showed up, but there was a lot of work and discipline and sticking to your plan, it sounds like, to get to that point. So then, okay, then how did you, and then what happened next?
Kept going back and forth with my wife about getting into rentals and the real estate, and with the market going, I don't remember at the time, but it was like, the price was coming up on everything. And kind of talking with our realtor again, he's like, kind of hold off. And my wife wasn't really for it. So we just kept pushing money to the side. And I kept trying to push the rental thing, and she was just not having it. So well, there's got to be a different way. And I think it was the summer of 2019 is when I stumbled upon Dave Van Horn's episode on Bigger Pockets.
On Bigger Pockets, yep.
And was like, oh, well, this sounds interesting and easy, and if other people can do it, why can't I? And then I started asking other people around me if they've ever heard of this, and they told me it was illegal. I was going to go to jail. Fraud. You can't own somebody's mortgage. You're not a bank, and things like that. But I just said screw it and kept listening to podcasts and searched more, and came across an old. Well, I guess he's still doing the podcast, but the We Close Notes crew, and was listening to him for a while. Stumbled upon Dan Deppen was one of his interviews one time with Fusion Notes, and something about Dan just really about him just was like, you know what, I really like the way this guy talks, the way he speaks. He seemed overly honest about a lot of things. I was like, I'm gonna reach out to him. So finally, one day, just called him on my way home from work, and had a good 1 hour call.
Yeah, Dan seems like a very real guy, very authentic. Just, I know he had a job, a previous career as what was he, a aerospace engineer or something like that?
Something very, very technical.
Very technical.
Way above,
but then
but
he's like a very, just presents himself like a very just average guy,
Yeah, I actually found him very easy to talk to the first, couple times we talked, and figured out the whole process of getting on his mailing list for JV deals. And this was at the point where the summer that we were searching for our home we're currently in now. Wife was pregnant, came home, was like, got this plan, I'm gonna do these JV deals with this guy. She's like, you've never met this guy, you talked to him, is this guy real? Are you crazy? We have a 1-year-old, I'm pregnant, right. We're living in a small rental, we're trying to buy a house, well, the day after we close, I'm taking some of our cash and I'm doing this JV deal. And it was an interesting conversation, but she agreed.
And do you think that was more about the reason she agreed? Do you think that was more about timing of what was going on with your life, your family life, or do you think it was like, okay, I'm on board with notes, but not rentals?
She, I think, still thought I was kind of crazy. Didn't understand that you could, buy a note or mortgage and do any of that stuff. And being pregnant, I think we closed on our house at this point. Or no, we didn't close yet. We were trying to close. So she knew I had lots of hours to demo and start redoing things. And it was just, I think, a lot for her while being pregnant at the same time. So, but she somehow agreed. And the day after we closed, I went to my bank and I'm like, well, I've never sent a wire before. Sat down, figured that out. And then after I left the bank, I was like, wow, I just wired a decent amount of money to somebody I've talked to. I've, talked to 6 times. I don't even, I did do some due diligence on them. I looked them up on the internet. I didn't just go blindly into it, Chris freaks out when he hears this, but
but it's true. Like at some point you are taking a risk, right? You can't control every little facet of every deal or every partnership you go into. So
you'll get paralyzed by it if you do it, think about it too much. And I was like, whatever. I guess I can make more money.
So that was one JV deal. Is that?
Yeah. So that was that got funded. It's like September of 2019. That lasted for about 11 months. There was like a sub-performing loan that Dan was able to work with the borrower, get him reperforming. And I don't know if he sold it on PaperStack or where, but ended up getting a decent price for it and got like a 23% return.
That was to you, 23%?
Yeah, 23%.
Wow.
So it was,
do you have good. Dan's wiring instructions? That'll make you hungry to do another
exactly
deal.
So then once my wife saw that, check, she was more for it.
You're a genius, Mike.
yeah. And Dan was willing to go over things, and I wouldn't say exactly teach, but have you involved in the JV deal. And listening to podcasts, I didn't want to be that the investor that constantly bothering somebody. Oh, I don't want to work with this guy in the future because he's calling me or emailing me. So I kind of really sat on the sidelines, just waited for quarterly statements. And
it's with joint ventures, it's this controversial topic, and it doesn't need to be, in my opinion, but and JV deals happen all the time, not just in notes, but in real estate and other asset classes and investment strategies. But it's it's not a passive. You're supposed to be involved in kind of the higher level decision making, at least, because it's not a passive investment. Could be seen as a security if it's entirely passive on your part. But Dan, or whoever the kind of operator is responsible for the day-to-day. Typically how it's structured is one party is responsible for the day-to-day management of the deal, and it sounds like he did a great job on that side of things.
I have no complaints. And if the deal flow, I think, was there for him, and it sounds like everybody else at the time, I probably would have just kept doing JV deals, but with him. But he had several other investors that were kind of on a waiting list, and it sounded like there was nothing coming down the pipe soon. And at the same time, I should back up. So it was a pretty scary moment. It was like 2 weeks after I wired Dan the funds. There's not a whole lot of communication, I guess, between that, the little time there. And it came out about the person that ran the podcast and all their issues. And I'm like, oh man, I found Dan because of this person. Is how much are they associated? And I had a mild panic attack, and I called Dan right away, and we talked through everything. He answered all my questions I had. Didn't get offended by any, me trying to group them together with them and talk through it. So that was a little nerve-wracking for a minute, but Dan came through on everything he said he was going to do. So that
was pretty wild. I remember that information coming out. I was actually in Taiwan visiting my brother, and I actually was on the Good Deeds podcast that week as a guest with when Gail and Chris were, I think it was the JV to varsity episode or something, but I do remember when all the news broke out about what you're talking about, and it was pretty wild. But thankfully there's some honest, upstanding people who were kind of part of that training program, and can move forward. So then what did you do? So you did the one successful JV deal, and then what was next?
After that, I was really, really into it, after a 23% return. Stumbled upon Gail and Chris, the podcast. That kind of became a daily thing of just listening to probably every single one of their podcasts, 2 or 3 times, trying to learn. Finally reached out to Chris, had a call with him. I was really busy with work at the time, and he was kind of asking me, is this something I want to do on my own and get into, or just be more passive? And we decided at that time, passive is probably the better thing. Got into one of his funds. I think it was the fall of 2020. So that one's still going on. And then I think shortly after that is when you took over for Gail on the podcast. And I was like, well, let me call this Jamie guy. So he's got some partials and that. So we had decided to call you one day, and actually you ignored me for like 2 months, if we remember correctly. I'm just kidding. Something happened with the emails or whatever in the messages, so I was giving you a hard time about that. But I reached out to buy, I guess, just a couple partials, get some of the funds we had left over from our remodel working, and you convinced me to become a note investor myself, basically, in short.
Nice.
I mean, we discussed obviously my goals and what wanted to do, and
Right.
expectations on returns, and like, well, just try it yourself and see what happens, and
Yeah.
the rest is history.
So, and now you own 3 notes, right?
Yeah, I own 3 CFDs. One's in Arkansas, one's in Ohio, and one is in Mississippi.
And I know we're not going to have time to get into all the weeds of how your decision making went, but do you have anything to offer for the newbie note investor as far as deciding, first versus seconds, or CFDs versus notes, or probably more importantly, non-performing versus performing?
The little experience I have, I would say go for something that's performing, or at least sub-performing, where there is contact with the borrower. With a full-time job and 3 kids, 3 and under, it's a little hectic to stay on top of everything that I think you would probably need to do with some non-performers, at least with timelines and deadlines and stuff like that. As far as CFDs, and that was basically the only thing I could really find. So that's what
I mean, deal flow.
I chose. I mean, I didn't really
deal
have
flow has been a challenge. Yeah. That's what was available, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, what was
first versus seconds. I mean, I think it probably goes back to what was available, somewhat. But and also just kind of, that's the world that Dan was in and that Chris was in, that I was in. So there are a lot more first position notes out there than seconds, and seconds can be a kind of a niche within this niche. But how about what would you say has been the biggest challenge so far, as far as becoming, going through the process of buying your first 3 notes, CFDs? What's been the biggest kind of surprise as far as a challenge so far?
Working with servicers. Some of the vendors I use for due diligence were really good, great at communicating. I was like, oh, what's Chris and Jamie talking about, this vendor nonsense? Emails back and forth, phone calls, this, that, and the other, and then it got to the servicer part, and I was like, now I understand why there's Wi-Fi.
How many times have I told you? I told you so. See what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it's, and quickly we get to the phrase that you make fun of me for, tease me for, is it depends. It really depends. There's some great servicers out there. Every servicer has pros and cons, but this is why we started BiFi, and Shantae's running BiFi, is because, there's an opportunity there in the note space, opportunity for improvement. Certainly not easy to start a servicing company and effectively run one. But yeah, that's to say there's frustration in the note investor space with servicers would be the understatement of 2021, I guess. But I think you're working with a couple of different servicers, I believe. Is that right?
Cool. So yeah, 2 different ones right now.
Gotcha. What would you say has been a surprise as far as what was maybe a little bit easier than you expected? Anything come to mind?
So far, I don't know. I guess, I mean, honestly, the easiest part would be, having a mentor, and not to prop you up on some high pedestal, but having someone that you can reach out to and ask advice, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, to actually get pointed in the right direction. Because there's different ways to respond to emails, to attorneys, to servicers, what to say, what not to say.
Well, apparently I don't respond to emails, right?
Yeah, we need to work on that a little bit.
I'm actually, that's like, I actually think I'm pretty good with it, but so that one I don't know what happened there. I apologize.
No.
No, so the easiest, so that's made it easier for you, is having somebody to bounce things off of and to kind of lead you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if someone, if we just end our conversation with like, Mike, I think you need to try this on your own. You sound like you could work your way through it, and that was the end of the conversation. I think it would probably take 2-3 years to get even to where the point I'm at now, because I mean, just even the LLC paperwork and the bank account and like just the things that I didn't really think about that much until you actually have to start doing it, and it's on you to do. And it's like,
right.
Oh, wow, there's a lot more than, hey, I'm gonna analyze this deal, put an offer, and wire somebody some funds. There's a lot more to it.
That's true. No, that's absolutely true. It's there's a lot, and we could spend a whole episode just on that. Like, it's very, we love to talk about due diligence on a deal. That's obviously important. You know, I know people who have their first deal didn't actually exist. So in other words, somebody that I know, his first mortgage note that he purchased turned out to not be real. That's a problem, right? So I'm certainly not saying don't do due diligence on a particular deal, but that is only one part of this business. And you're right. I mean, it's honest. I'll be honest. I didn't really, when I started doing mentorship, I kind of underestimated certain things I'd done previously from our rental business and things like that. And I kind of, setting up your LLC or setting up your bank account for your LLC is a good example of, oh yeah, that's right. I didn't expect to be mentoring about that, frankly, but that's a really good example of, you're not going to find this in a note investing course, most likely. So it's good to have, I think, be a part of a community where you can bounce questions off of people, or have an actual mentor who's kind of dedicated to seeing you succeed. But my role personally has been to just give you information on what's worked for me and what hasn't worked, and hopefully cut your learning curve, cut that time down. But at the end of the day, you're the one making the decisions on, I mean, you're the one that's the active note investor, and I'm just here to provide support and guidance. So at this point, you've got your 3 notes. They're all CFDs. Are they performing, non-performing? How's that looking?
I would say I would call one a performer, one a partial sub-performer. That's one of those, they pay, they don't pay for 2-3 months. They reinstate.
Lumpy payer.
The lumpy payer syndrome there. And then the other one, that borrower is about 7 months behind right now. There is communication, and they do make, double payments here and there, but it seems like they're slowly just falling more and more behind. So we have reached out and, try to have an open line communication with the borrower to find out if there's something we can work on together to, get her back on track. So.
Got it. All right.
I also got 7 partials.
Okay.
I mentioned that. So
3
partials with you, 3 with Chris, and 1 still with Dan. So.
Okay.
And, I really like those. It's just every it's real boring, but it's it's real nice. Once a month you check your bank account and money is there.
Yeah. And again, there's different ways. There are different ways to do partials versus hypothecation, and it can definitely be more on the passive side of things, and as the partial buyer. So I've been a partial buyer myself, and it is nice. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I have this other thing that pays me every month. So that's a whole topic in and of itself. So you've got 3 whole notes, you've got 7 partials, and you've got some other note. You mentioned the fund, and
2 funds now, I think.
2 funds. And so no, and I think we're hitting on the fact that there's many ways to skin the cat. You don't have to be a quote unquote active note investor, or you can be kind of more of a passive. There are many ways to make money in notes. And it really depends on your goals, your personal situation. I mean, you have 3 young kids, you don't have a lot of free time. You do pretty well at your your real job. So, we've talked about this previously, but I think just one thing to mention is it's real easy to say, to make it your goal to quit your job and become a full-time note investor, full-time real estate investor. And that sounds great. That sounds cool, stick it to the man or whatever, but maybe that's not the smartest way to go. And I think currently, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've found with your circumstances, it just makes more sense for you to keep note investing as a much more part-time thing as compared to your day job. And I've told you, I think it makes sense for you personally to just double down on your day job. And, that doesn't mean in 5 or 10 years, things can't be different. But they're just, I just love the fact that you can approach this from many different angles, and it's up to you, how you want to do it. So do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, basically exactly what you said, that I think if people are on the fence of getting started, or, they don't like their job or want to leave their job, well, then go out and try to buy a couple notes and see if you like it or not. I mean, there's days where I really do enjoy, going through a lot of the stuff in the note business, quote unquote. And then there's other days where I ask myself why I'm even bothering,
what am I doing?
But I enjoy learning different avenues, or whatever you want to call it. And
yeah,
I think you're right and then I don't know, I guess most people that, full disclosure, that you'd pay to mentor, you wouldn't be like, hey, I don't think you should really focus on this as much. And it's like, okay, wow, if that person's telling you something, that's some really hardcore advice, because it's, but it's the truth, and that's what I find good about, our mentorship, is that you've always been brutally honest all the way from going through some of the due diligence, the questions I brought up. And it's like, listen, they're CFDs. This is what you're purchasing.
Yeah, right.
Get it out of your head. You know what I mean?
There's going to be some hair on this. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, if people are like, I love my day job. I like what I do for a living. I make, decent money doing it. So
yeah,
that's my plan, is to keep doing what I'm doing. Maybe do this on the side. Maybe convince my wife to buy some rentals if there's ever another downturn in the real estate market here.
Well, I think that's another part of it, is this, with the pandemic and the foreclosure moratoria and eviction, the courts shutting down and everything. I mean, and deal flow has been very challenging. So it's not only your personal circumstances, but it's also the market conditions that can play a role into your decision-making process. As again, maybe in 2022, I do think things will open back up some as far as non-performing loans, and things can change outside of your own situation. So, but the thing is, now you have a lot more knowledge than you had 2 years ago. You're putting your money to work. And, when, like you said, if you buy a rental, you've now got the kind of the debt side of it, the mortgage note side of it. Not saying you're the expert in the space yet, but you've got a lot of knowledge that, I mean, most people in the US have never even heard of mortgage note investing. So you've got a lot of knowledge in this little niche that can really pay dividends down the road. So who knows where we'll be in 5 or 10 years. But so we're running out of time here. I'm going to fly through some questions, and we'll see where it goes. What's a mistake you've made so far in your note investing career?
Not being stern with the servicer that made some overpayments into my account, and I can't get them to draw back the funds before the end of the year. And so really driving me crazy, to be honest.
Okay.
So that, be more stern with your vendors. I mean, you don't got to be rude or ignorant or anything like that, but stick up for yourself, basically.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's your business. You're going to care about it more than anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Room for improvement in your personal note business.
Staying more organized, and staying on top of like what the next steps are, how often to follow up, and just not waste time going on and checking servicer portals for no reason, like we talked about last
That's
week.
That's a really good one. But yeah, and we have a call after this to go through Podio and how to how to work on
get
some
used
of that.
to use Podio more to my advantage. So
how about room for improvement in the note space in general? Not your business, but just kind of what could the leaders in the note space work on to help improve note investing for everyone?
Honestly, the servicers have better communication.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's just the Wild West, which I guess is why it's appealing to people, and there's money to be made, because it's, I mean, I don't want to say scary, but it's kind of crazy when you start thinking about, how the processes are done at some places. It's like, how is that even, like, how do people sleep at night? But
yeah,
I mean, that, and then maybe it is for the mentors, or the people that are out there teaching, is like we kind of touched upon, maybe back up, getting started in no business, and say you need to focus on talking to an attorney about opening your LLC and how to structure things and what kind of bank accounts, what really bring it back to the basics, that, like you said, even you forgot about, until I'm like, hey man, what do I
yeah,
I mean,
it can cut both ways, because I know people will use that as an excuse to not take action. Oh, well, I don't know whether my business should be, if I should buy notes in an LLC or a trust, and therefore I'm going to research for all of 2022. Well, no, don't do that. But yeah, I mean, but the flip side is you do need to think about that. And not only that, but we talked about on the Wealth Without Wall Street recent podcast, is your investor DNA. Should you be buying notes? Like what is, determining what type of investor you want to be. Should you be buying rentals? Should you be buying notes? Kind of when you said backup, that's what my mind went to, is not here's how to do due diligence on a note. Well, our notes, what you should be getting into, is that what you should be doing? So some of those basics.
Especially in my background, like I'm a hands-on mechanical guy. I can turn on a computer. I can make some hokey spreadsheets, but like even I remember when we first started, like trying to go through some Excel stuff and some calculations, and I mean, I'll be honest, I was completely lost on a lot of the stuff, and it's like maybe I should have backed up and I should have educated myself more with, I don't know, systems of that sort, and because it seems like a lot of the note investors are engineers that.
Well, some of the problem
Excel.
was you were using your phone or an iPad in a Starbucks. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. But no, Panera. Sorry, Panera.
We had a lot of connection issues, and
no, but you're absolutely right. And I mean, I think that is true in notes and real estate. You get a lot of engineer types, or more kind of Excel wizards and math and science type people who are drawn to real estate investing and note investing, because running the numbers is pretty important, right? I mean, so that's a key skill for sure. But again, I think Chris has said before, no matter, once you buy the deal, you can throw out your spreadsheet, because that's just what your projections were going in. So, I think it's pretty neat that you've shown that you don't have to be an Excel wizard. You can still take action and become an active note investor when you're more of a hands-on, I guess, trades person, if you will, versus like the computer genius.
Because I think even after first couple of our sessions, you're like, are you sure you want to like, you seem more of a rental, you can go fix stuff type of thing.
Now, and I feel like this episode I keep just kind of thinking of counters to everything, but and you'll hear Brandon Turner talk about this on Bigger Pockets. He knew how to fix things. So here's a reason a hands-on person might not want to get into rentals. Don't let your wife listen to this one. But it's hard to scale when you know how to fix things. You mentioned you had high standards on your rehabs, and maybe from a numbers standpoint that didn't help things. Probably slowed things down too. I mean,
yes,
so just, yes, it's cool that you know how to go fix things, and I'm sure you fix all kinds of things on pretty much any residential property, but you can't scale that way. So at some point, if your goal is to acquire more than 1 or 2 rental properties, or if you want to do a long distance rental investing, you can't be that guy, that's the person fixing things. So yes, play to your strengths. And one of your strengths is, how the property itself, the building, how the mechanical systems function, but that only goes so far. So I guess,
and I remember Brandon talking about that a lot when he was going through that transition. I mean, way back when,
right.
And it was, and I think, I can't remember, Josh was kind of, I think, giving him a hard time about it all the time. Like, stop fixing the water heater, stop doing this, like focus on what you're good at. And now look at him,
he's blown up. And and I do recommend, we self-managed our rentals for many years. And I recommend people do that, initially, depending on the circumstances, but that way, if your property manager is doing a good job, what, generally speaking, what a water heater costs, as an example. But again, if I'm running around to my rentals fixing stuff, I have no time to be looking for deals or doing my bookkeeping or whatever else. So if you're trying to make it more than just one rental, or a couple rentals in your retirement portfolio, then you can't be that guy fixing everything. So I know we got off on a tangent there, but how about your goals for notes and real estate? Anything specific in the next 5 or 10 years you want to accomplish?
It's really market dependent, I would say. I mean, I'm not independently wealthy by any means. So, allocating money to certain things is, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. We just allocated our last little nest egg we had saved up for investing actually yesterday. So right now I'm kind of out of money. So plan is to focus on, my full-time job for like the next 6 months, see what happens in the market. If there is another downturn or something, I would definitely like to take advantage and try to get some rentals under my belt. Stay away from the fix and flips just because I don't have time or the energy for that right now.
It makes sense.
And it's kind of up in the air and just depends on really what the market does. So
got it.
Try to rat hole some money.
Okay. Well, so last couple questions here. So this is the Good Deeds Note Investing podcast, in case you didn't know. What is a good deed that you've done or you hope to do?
I haven't done any in the note space yet, but hopefully someday I can help a borrower stay in their home or help get them out of a bad situation, and hopefully use more of the funds that we make from notes to give more to charities. My wife's a nurse, so she likes to give to the Children's Hospital every year, and I'm a big supporter of veterans, so we give to different veterans associations around the area and stuff like that. So, but
you don't care about kids?
No,
I'm kidding.
No.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think we don't talk about that enough. It's I guess entrepreneurs and business people can easily get painted as greedy, selfish, money hungry people, but I think if you look at it, they, for the most part, they give back, and you're able to control kind of and influence and support organizations, nonprofits, like it sounds like you guys do. So that's really good. How about a nugget? You've already covered a bunch of them, but a note and bolt for our audience, something that they may not learn in a training program.
Ooh, something not learned. I don't know about that.
How about just a piece of advice for a newer note investor?
If you're on the fence and it's something you think you want to do, just just do it. I mean, even if you waste a little bit of money setting up LLC, bank, whatever, and it doesn't pan out, well, at least you tried at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You could sit on the sidelines for years and never do anything, and at the same time you're wasting money doing that too.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in like the social media with the big, the big players out there that are constantly posting videos and Rolls Royce and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Kind of, just do your own thing, stay consistent.
Yeah.
My thing is stay quiet and humble. A lot of people are big downers when you talk about investing, especially with real estate. I don't take too much advice from people that haven't done what I'm trying to do anymore. It was a big change in my life.
That's smart.
It just turned into analysis paralysis when you have people talking in your ear constantly about how their uncle lost 20 grand here and all that. Just go about your things in a logical way and stay focused. And kind of like what you said a couple episodes ago, just take a breath every once in a while, look back every 3, 6, 12 months and
zoom out
look at your progress. Because like day to day it's like, man, what am I doing? But if you look back to April or May or whatever it was, it's like, oh wow, I didn't have an LLC. I didn't even know how to form an LLC.
Right.
And there's big milestones.
I got a bunch of things that popped into my head there, but the Matt 4 episode, he talked about running your own race, and he's really committed to just running his own race, meaning he's not running Mike Schultz's race, he's running Matt 4's race. So Mike Schultz's race may not be the one for him. And granted, he runs like 100-mile races in real life, so you probably don't want to run his race, but I know I don't.
No. Well, you can barely walk right now, right?
Well, yeah, I'm doing better. I went for a bike ride the other day, but you could ride
you almost didn't have an episode where you didn't mention your
yeah, that was your I blame you
your career
for this
your career ending
I blame you for this one. I wasn't going to bring it up, but but that's that one. And then it's the quote is credited to Bill Gates as far as you see different versions of this quote, but people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. You can change that to 1 day versus 1 year, but point being, if you look at the micro level, it's very easy to say, I didn't make progress today or this week, like Chris does his weekly, like in the Facebook group, the notes and bolts from the Good Deeds Note Investing Facebook group. That's a mouthful. Every Friday we do, hey, what happened this week? Some weeks it's like, I don't think I felt busy. I definitely felt busy, but I don't think I made a lot of progress, so it's very easy to get down in that sense. But if you take a look at 6 months or a year, it's okay. I'm making progress. Could be 1 step back for 2 steps forward, kind of thing. So I think there were 7 or 8 notes and bolts in there for our audience. So that's really good. So I mean, Mike, this has been really good. I didn't give you a ton of warning, so I appreciate you hopping on. I gave you a little more, I gave you a little. Certainly it was up to you. You could have said no, but gave you more warning than Steven got that one time with the 5 minutes.
He did great for a 5 minute.
Yeah, he did. We need to bring him back on. I told you, if you buy 1 more note, then you have 1 more than him, then you can mentor him. So is there anything else you want to add for our audience here?
I mean, just stay consistent. That's the biggest thing I've been learning. And surround yourself with people that are, I don't know, doing better, doing things that you want to do. I mean, like I've told you, I think last month, like just taking that breath and looking back, like this year has changed, working with you and talking with Chris, like just being around you guys has refocused a lot of things on, family and work and just staying, organized with life in general and all the great things that come with it. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. And I try to do the same thing. It's take a page out of somebody's book that you respect, and then doesn't mean I have all the answers, doesn't mean Chris has all the answers, but I do have a mentorship program. Chris and I are really bad at promoting our own stuff on here.
You guys are horrible.
We're horrible at it. I am planning to add some more structure to my mentorship program next year. I know you and some other people I've worked with do like the flexibility part of it, but I'm going to add a little bit more structure to it. And Chris has his membership group that is just taking off now. So I think that's going to be really good as far as, a small community where you can learn from Chris, but also from each other, and there are resources in there. And I recommend people check out both of those things. So
yeah, I did a couple free episodes or free webinars with Chris, and I'm just sitting on and just, I know Chris doesn't like people being quiet. People pick on you, people calling you. I was in the middle of working on a boiler and listening just in the background,
Nice.
And he decided to pick on me because I wasn't commenting, but yeah, it's great. I got a lot out of I think just 3 of them that I've done so far. So.
I mean, Chris is really good at challenging people and, drawing out the best in them. And I wouldn't be on the podcast. I wouldn't be here doing this if he didn't kind of pull that out of me. So I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but thank you, Chris. So yeah, we went a little long today, but those are 2 things people should check out for sure. So Mike, I really appreciate your time. I know you are a busy guy. I know you do well at your day job. So I appreciate the time you spent here with us today. I know people are going to get a lot of value out of it. Where can people reach out to you if they'd like to reach out?
Just through the Good Deeds Note Investing Facebook podcast group. That's nice. You can find me on there. I'm not very active by any means. I do comment every once in a while. But
what's your I don't know if you want to say, what's your Facebook name? I don't even.
I think it's Michael Anthony. I'm not.
Okay. Got it.
I don't know. Try to stay
too public about things. Yeah, that's understandable. Okay, and your business name, for your note business?
It's MK Notes. So nothing fancy, nothing big.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thank you, sir. Really appreciate your time. And for the listeners out there, please share, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to go out and do some good deeds. Take care, everyone.